Assalamu alaikum everyone. Can you hear me? Thumbs up if you can hear me. I know last week there were some issues with the audio. Assalamu alaikum Nasim auntie. Can you hear? We had a practice session today and it worked, so inshallah I'm hoping. Shall I send you another invite again, Nasim auntie? Bismillah. Okay, Nasim auntie, you can't hear me, but I can see a thumb up with Abbas. So you can hear me, Abbas? Okay, Abbas can hear me. That's great. Okay, Nasim auntie, you still can't hear me? Yes, great. I think you're there. Are you there?
Assalamu alaikum, sister. How are you? Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad wa ajil farjahum. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Alhamdulillah. You can hear me?
Nowruz Mubarak to all of you. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. How are you all? Hope you're all well. Inshallah, please do let us know where are you joining from, which country. Would really appreciate, inshallah. Bismillah, Farzana, sister. Bismillah.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I'm sorry it's been such a long break between the last session, but we're continuing on the similar theme of reflection. So today we're looking at tips on how we can reflect and contemplate. And it's quite timely. Maybe Allah wanted it this way as we're about to step into the month of Ramadan in just a few days, inshallah. So it's quite timely. What I would suggest is if we could all grab a pen and paper very quickly, because I'm going to go through some things quite quickly. It's literally a whistle stop for some of the reflection processes. So if you can grab a pen and paper, you can write down some of the headings, and inshallah you can do your own homework during the next few days before the month of Mahr Ramadan, looking at which type of reflection would best suit you. Okay, so Nasim auntie, at any point, please come in, yeah, whenever you feel.
Sure.
I don't mind.
I'm just looking forward to hearing from you, and I hope that our viewers will, inshallah, enjoy these reflections, and inshallah they'll be able to adopt some of the, practical tools, and that will help them in the month of Ramadan, inshallah. Yeah.
Inshallah. To be honest, this has been a good reminder for me as well, whilst I've been looking back through some of my notes. So thank you for Lantern of Light for letting me do this. It's refreshed a lot for me. Okay, I'm hoping everyone's got their pens, which is great. So I think I just want to quickly go through reflection or self-examination is not something that's very difficult. It's actually something that is quite doable depending on the types of reflection we choose, okay? It seems very daunting. The deeper you go, yes, it feels more and more daunting. But once you start, it's like, what's it called? A ball of wool that just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. You'll be able to get deeper and deeper and deeper, inshallah. Okay, so one type, there's three types of reflection that you can think of reflection in three parts. Reflection in action. This means that you're kind of observing what's taking place in the moment, and what is working for you and what is not. Okay, I don't know, Nasim auntie, if you want to come in on that one in terms of what we would say Islamically as reflection in action.
So what I would suggest is why don't you discuss the science part of it, the neuroscience part of the reflections, and then inshallah we can go step by step, taking a verse from the Quran, taking a couple of ahadith, and then we'll take it from there, inshallah.
Perfect. Okay, inshallah. I don't think I'll do any neuroscience today. I don't want to make everyone go to sleep, but because I know last time was a bit heavy. So there's reflection in action. So again, I'll say it's observing what's taking place in the moment. So it's like you're a third person watching to see what you're doing, what's taking place, how you're doing things, why you're doing things. Yep. So whilst you're in action. Then there is reflection on action. So this kind of thing will take place straight away, usually after. It can be sometime after, but you don't want to leave the gap too long. So after an incident has taken place, so after a task has been done, whether it's, you know, going to work, providing service in a voluntary setting, or you know, working with the family, whatever it might be, if you feel that there's some significant things that have happened, or just generally, as Imam Ali says, reflect, you know, at the end of your day, reflect on what you've done. So reflect on the actions that you have gone through in that day, or any particular action. Sometimes it's better to start with one thing than to start reflecting on multiple things at the start, because you're trying to get yourself used to the process of reflection. Okay, so try and do it immediately after, but if not, maybe take note. And then at the end of the day, so if you keep yourself a diary or a journal or something, then at the end of the day, inshallah, you can go back and you can start reflecting a little bit deeper into the action itself. So reflection on the action. Okay. Then there's reflection for the action. And this is usually when you've got quite used to reflecting generally. So you've got quite used to reflecting in action and on action. Yeah. At this point, you're reflecting on your ultimate goal. It's about where you need to be. It's about utilizing the skills that you have gained, the information, the knowledge, the wisdom you've gained through your experiences, through life, whatever it might be. This is the kind of reflection that allows you to look back, but gives you the motivation to move forward, the energy to move forward. It allows you to kind of improve yourself, improve your activities as you go forward in your future activities. It allows you to be more organized and have better processes that will allow you to achieve more and better, you know, in the time that you have. And this is more of an ongoing kind of process, although the others should be ongoing too. But as you can see, it's quite eternal, because you're always going to be looking at your actions that you want to do. You always want to look ahead and better yourself and set goals. Yeah. So I'm going to quickly go through a few theories very briefly, whistle stop, because I know we've only got half an hour and it's like a marathon to get through everything. But inshallah, we'll get through. So I'm going to go through a really quick whistle stop of some of the referenced kind of cycles that we've used in the past, or methods for reflection. So one of them is the ERA cycle, which is, if you take note, it's by Jasper 2013. So that's something you can search, ERA cycle. Okay, and it's not very easy. So you might want to look at this last. I've just seemed to have looked at it first. Okay, so it contains
I'm making my notes as well. Yeah, everyone is.
Okay, so you have three. Actually, this is the most simplest. It's not the hardest, but you can make it as hard as you want, because you go deeper and deeper using these three principles, which is similar to what I've already said before. So Jasper has got three principles, which are experience, reflection, and action. And I'm not going to go into too much detail, but you've got to be very aware of what your experiences are to be able to find where you need to reflect. And this can be emotional experiences, either towards yourself or what you've seen of others. For example, you know, Nasim, you do a lot of work with deprived children and things like that. So even if you want to reflect externally, you would reflect on the situation that they're in, and then possibly reflect for action would be the next way forward, right? You'd be looking at what would be the ultimate goals of how we're going to make this better for the deprived children that we're working with. So that's just one example. Okay. So once you've identified the experience, then you have the opportunity to reflect on that experience. And after that experience is the action that allows you to make change. And that's what reflection is about ultimately. Imam Ali wants us to make change, which is why he's recommended that we reflect on a daily basis, so that we're constantly bettering ourselves, upskilling ourselves. Then we've got Driscoll's model, which is 1990s. They're from the 1990s. And what he's used are 3 steps as well. He asks what, so what is it that's happened? What are you doing? Which is similar to experience, I guess. He's asked, so what? Okay, so now it's happened. What are we going to do about it? How are we going to move forward? And then he says, now what? Now we know the what and the so what. Now what? What's the change? So they're very similar, if you can see, right? But go into detail. This is very whistle stop. Then you must have all heard of Knob's experiential learning cycle. Okay, and in that one, it's about what is the concrete experience. So you can see there's a focus point, strong focus point. It's not just an experience, it's the concrete experience that you really want to start dissecting. Okay, then his detailed word is reflective observation. Okay, what are your observations within your reflection? What are your observations of the experience that you can reflect on? So you not only acknowledge the experience, but you are observing it, which goes back to the third person watching down, and then you're allowing yourself to reflect. Okay? Then there's abstract conceptualization, where you're getting a better understanding of what's happened. So it's just fluffing it out a little bit more. But again, I'll ask you to read on it. It's just a really quick whistle stop, okay? And then there's active experimentation, which is again about change, right? What experiments can I do? What can I dabble in to allow myself to make these changes? What are the processes? But sometimes straight after reflection, it's hard to find a concrete process for the future or a concrete way to change. So you try different ways to make change within your life. Yeah, different avenues. You'll incorporate different things, and you can't do too much change at once, because as you know, if you take on too much, it's not going to last as long. So very small mini steps of change. Okay, and my favorite, which you must have heard me talk about a lot, is the Gibbs reflective cycle. And what I might do is I'll post an image of the Gibbs reflective cycle on my story, inshallah, and then you guys can have a look at it from there. But what Gibbs asked for is the description of what's happened. What are the feelings that you experienced during that time? Now evaluate what you've experienced, what you felt, okay? And then analyze it. So there is a difference between evaluation and analyze, okay? And again, I'll ask you to look into that, but I'll try and put some information on my story for you to make it a little bit easier, okay? And then after you've analyzed that situation or the time and place that an issue had happened or whatever it might be, what's your conclusion? What have you decided from this? And then there's the action plan. How are you going to move forward from this experience or this situation? This could be an altercation with somebody. This could be a very happy moment where you've had an amazing experience. But is it going to stop there? What's the conclusion of this happy moment? A graduation. What's the conclusion? Does it stop there? Oh, okay, I've got my master's or I've got my degree or whatever it might be. No, it doesn't. It's an avenue to start a new process, a new life, a new way of being. So that's where your conclusion comes in, and then you put in your action plan. Okay, well, I'm going to start job hunting. I'm going to take a break and I'm going to go around the world and see how I can use my experiences to benefit other people or whatever it might be. Now, journaling is something that people are quite familiar with. I think it's very popular at the moment. But what I find with journaling is that it records specific events. Okay, so you have experiences and you record the emotional states that you had when you were experiencing that experience. It's a way of offloading. But the problem is sometimes we could go on offloading, but where do we go next? Once you've offloaded and you've created that space of calm within you, even if it's for a little while or it's for a longer period of time, it doesn't matter. What will you do with that space? And that's when reflection should come in. Journaling is an avenue to release, whether that's talking to somebody or writing it down in a journal. But after that release, let's start thinking about how we're going to move forward. Pick one thing from the journal. Look for patterns in what you've written within the journal. Maybe take highlighter pens. Are there certain emotions that are pulled up more? Then reflect on those emotions and why they come. What is triggering you within yourself for those emotions to come? Does that make sense? So there's quite a lot that I've covered there. Nasim, I'm going to pass it back to you, and then I will continue after that if we have time, inshallah.
I think these points that you have raised, and I feel that Quran talks about all these pointers. If you look very closely and look into the verses of the Quran, so I will begin with Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, and welcome to all of you who have joined us in this Mindful Mondays that we usually have once in a month, and our sincere apologies for not having it last week, simply because we just couldn't log in. So I'm just trying to make it very comfortable for all of you so that you don't feel like, oh my God, I've had such a hard day and I don't want to understand these, sciences behind reflection. So I'm going to be very simple, and I like to make things very, very simple. And inshallah, just try and reciprocate and align with Sister Farzana as to what she's just discussed. So we will begin with a journey from the Holy Quran, and let us just pick up this sharaf and light from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through the verses of the Quran. So one of the chapters that is so profound in the Quran, and as we know, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about reflection, in Arabic, in Quranic language, it is known as at-tafakkur. At-tafakkur, it comes from the word fikr, to think, to cogitate, to be cognizant, to contemplate, to ponder. In Surah Imran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in ayah number 191, and if you have the Quran next to you, Sister Farzana, please do pick it up, because I just want to go through the pointers that you have mentioned. Allah says, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, الذين يذكرون الله قياما وقعودا وعلى جنوبهم ويتفكرون في خلق السماوات والأرض ربنا ما خلقت هذا باطلا سبحانك فقنا عذاب النار. I just want to break this down and make it real so that we all enjoy this beautiful verse from the Holy Quran, and not just zoom through very quickly, but try and see what are the practical takeaways of doing tafakkur. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in His infinite mercy, He mentions those who remember Allah standing and sitting and lying on their sides and reflect on the creations of the heavens and the earth. Now just imagine yourself standing, meaning you're working, you're at work, you're doing a job, you're a teacher, you're a professor, or you're cooking at home for your children. So you're standing, or you're going for a walk, or you're sitting and just having that beautiful iftar as we are all preparing for the month of Ramadan. So I'm sure we'll be enjoying those moments in the mosque, with our communities, having that beautiful khoja chai and that lovely iftar together. Now here Allah says, and sitting with myself, being alone, sitting with my family, with my community. And then Allah says, lying on their sides, meaning having your qaylula, having your power nap in the afternoon. I don't know how many of you get that opportunity to have a power nap in the afternoon. I'm sure most of us mothers are struggling with this, but hopefully in the month of Ramadan we'll be able to just take the time out and relax, because our naum, our sleep is also going to be ibadah. Imagine Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made everything possible for us to feel His beautiful presence and giving us this divine banquet. Allah says, and those who reflect on the creations of the heavens and the earth, O Allah, Ya Rabb, Rabbana, O our Lord. Allah is talking to all of us. He says, our Lord, you have not created this in vain. Meaning that many of us struggle at the moment, and I speak to a lot of brothers and sisters, and we are constantly thinking about ourselves not being able to reflect on our purpose. I've spoken to young mothers, I've spoken to women above the age of 40, and they've never had this opportunity of finding who they are. What is their purpose in life? Where are they heading to? But in this ayah of the Holy Quran, Allah says, nothing has been created in vain. Oh Allah, save us from the chastisement of the fire. Now, if you look into this verse, it's all very experiential. You know, we are experiencing, okay? So as this is just a very quick journey, and we are not doing a course, Farzana, you know, I hope, you know, we will all appreciate that this is just a tapping into the jewels of tafakkur and tadabbur, of pondering, you know, about ourselves, about the nature of the universe. Allah says in this particular verse that when you walk around in the universe, you first thing, the beginning of our journey in practical mysticism, in doing this tafakkur, Imam Khomeini writes in his 40 hadith, and this is hadith number 12, he says, so, you know, profoundly, he mentions that arouse your hearts towards contemplation, and keep your side clear of the night, and be heedful towards your Lord. Now, this is a very important hadith by Imam Jafar Sadiq alayhi salam, and this is also mentioned in Usul al-Kafi. These are really rich books, and this has been mentioned by Imam Khomeini on the chapter of At-Tafakkur. So basically, number one, if you were to look into the universe, the first thing that we all have, and we are all surrounded by, is, subhanallah, the creation of the universe. Many of us are still struggling to finding, you know, ourselves in this grand universe, right? But how many of us have actually taken a pause and really done tafakkur, you know, looking at a beautiful flower, that how did this beautiful flower emerge? You know, how did it have all the colors, the intricate details in a beautiful rose? You know, I mean, we just go and buy flowers, but how many of us are really reflecting that how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created every detail in the universe for us to contemplate, to reflect, okay? So we need to look at the creation, and according to the great scholars, they come up with this beautiful concept that everything in the Quran is an ayah. Now, my dear brothers and sisters who have joined us tonight, you know, remember one thing, and I just want to reassure you that you are an ayah of Allah. Each one of us is a sign of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Meaning we are a verse, we are an ayah, we are a living testament to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's grand beauty and His majesty, and He's created everything through His rahmah. So the written ayah, the written Quran is a stepping stone. It is a groundbreaking place for us all to reflect and contemplate on the purpose of ourselves, of our existence, and where are we heading to, right? So that is number one. Number two is to see that we give ourselves time to positive reflection. Because many of us today, unfortunately, because of all the stresses that we have and the kind of lifestyle that we are all leading, sometimes it happens that we are very negative and we think so negatively about everything in life. It could be our financial stresses, it could be our children, it could be our relationships, it could be our relationship with Allah, it could be even the month of Ramadan. You know, we've already made that judgment that, oh my God, I may not have a good Ramadan, or I am not going to be able to enjoy the month of Ramadan. Now, this is where our A'imma Tahirin, our Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam, have stressed that when you are in the mode of reflections, you need to think positively about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, yourself and your surroundings. Can you just give me a moment? I just want to drink water, please, if you don't mind.
No
Please carry
problem.
on, Farzana.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So I think there was one thing that I really liked. This has gone from my head now. You'd mentioned it before. Oh, it was there. Oh no, it's totally gone. Okay. I think what you mentioned about experience, if we use that, okay, the experiences that we have sitting within the state that we're in. Now, I don't know if any of you have seen that Google image, what's it called? Google World, where there's one person lying down or something, and then it goes higher and higher and higher up into the stars. If we think of reflection in that way, it's just us. We feel alone. However, we're not alone. We are one within, a whole universe, like you'd mentioned before. And just reflecting on ourselves within such an intricate setup that Allah has put together, subhanallah. I mean, you could be reflecting on that for
so
hours.
I think it's so important that we need to give ourselves that time. And I think that me time is so important. And one of the best ways of doing a little bit of reflection is just taking that 5 minutes before our salah. Salah needs to be the center of our being. And everything needs to revolve around our salah, our daily prayers. So imagine if I were to give 5 minutes just before my salah, and just sit on the musalla. And I think this is very, very simple. And I'm sure many of us will enjoy doing this starting the month of Ramadan. And you can even start tonight. Why not wait for, why do we want to wait till the month of Ramadan? Inshallah, may Allah bless us and maybe witness the barakah and the mercy and the rahmah of the month of Ramadan. But just giving that 5 minutes of reflection, a tafakkur. If you look into the life of the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we all know that the Prophet used to receive revelation after he would be spending time in the cave of Hira, and he would be in the constant remembrance, the dhikr of Allah. He would be contemplating, he would be under the open sky, he would be talking to Allah, he would be doing munajat. And just imagine that the Prophet spent so much time at the cave of Hira, and he used to be at the mount, something that was so organic, with the freshness, I mean, just imagine, many of us are so looking forward to going to retreats. People want to go to Morocco, they want to go to Maldives, they want to go to so many different places, right? And what's the purpose? It's taking that time out from your busy schedule. But look at the model, the prophetic model. You find that there was a time of social isolation of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam that he had to take so that he was able to, get that energy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and feel that energy coming from Allah, from the divine grace, receiving that faith from Allah so that he was able to cope with the challenges of the people of Mecca and the time that he spent with the people and the revelations that were coming through to him. Now, I think contemplation in psychology is also termed as a soft skill. It's not a hard skill, okay? For people who have studied psychology, and I was studying and I was doing some research, and I found that it's a beautiful soft skill, and it's a spiritual instinct that you and I have, subhanallah. So I think the journey of tafakkur is the first journey in spiritual wayfaring for people who want to enjoy being in the dhikr of Allah, being in the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and attracting God's footprints. I think it's very important that you begin very slow, like Farzana mentioned. You don't want to do too much. You start small and you start building it up. And I think the most important thing that you mentioned was that journaling can be a healer, can be very therapeutic, But then you've asked a very powerful question, and then what? You've journaled, and then what? And this is where Quran comes. This is where the Prophet comes, and this is where the Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam come. And what do they say? The Prophet says, at-tafakkuru sa'a, meaning that just 1 hour of contemplation, tafakkur, afdalu min ibadatis 70 sana. There are some narrations that mention that 1 hour of reflection, contemplation, is better than 70 years of your lifelong ibadat that you have performed, right? Okay? What happens in this, my dear sister? And this is where I want to align with what Farzana you've just mentioned. What happens here is your whole perspective about the universe changes. Why? Because you've given that time for reflection. So, for example, I want to understand my salah, okay? And I'm giving that time because salah is actually meeting God. Now, imagine if I were to do that tafakkur and think about this prayer, that this prayer is going to connect me with my beloved, okay? It's not just a ritual. It's not just something robotic, mechanical that we just pray namaz. Because many of us pray, we are so focused on the tajweed of salah that we forget the fruit, the essence, you know, the sweetness of every part that we recite in our salah. And this is where I feel that tafakkur really helps. So what happens is the next step is that once I have reflected, and that's exactly what Imam Sadiq alayhi salam says, that a mu'min needs to be doing tafakkur every single day and do muhasiba, okay? So the journey begins with musharita. Musharita in Arabic means that you make those preconditions. You make preconditions with yourself. It comes from the word shart, musharita. Farzana, do you want to share anything here? Should I continue? Because I just want to go through the 3 different steps. So number 1 is musharita. Number 2 is muhasaba. That's the self-actions, accountability. You know, so many of us, sometimes we speak about people without even realizing that we've hurt so many people. We are hurting people through our words. We're hurting people through our actions. You know, it could be our family members, right? So that is muhasaba. And then the 3rd is muraqabah. There are different journeys in spirituality, but I just wanted to focus on the first 3. So number 1, musharita, making a condition to myself that inshallah, in this month of Ramadan, I'm putting a condition to myself that I am going to be in the best form of my akhlaq. I'm going to be extra kind and genuinely kind, not just pretending. I cannot do this Allah, I cannot do this alone. I really cannot do anything alone. And Allah, iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Oh Allah, please help me in this journey. Okay? So, musharata. Small steps. Making a condition that inshallah I will give time to reflect in the verses of the Quran, putting a condition. Okay? Number 2, doing that muhasabah, being self-accountable. It's so important. It's so important. Many of us do not give importance to self-accountability. And I think it's so important, my dear brothers and sisters, that we take accountability and stock of our actions. And that is the reason why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has begun the journey of spirituality from the month of Rajab, Sha'ban, and ultimately, subhanallah, the month of Ramadan. And month of Ramadan is our first spiritual month in the Islamic calendar. Many of us think that the first spiritual month is Muharram, but according to the great scholars, and if you look into the traditions, it is mentioned that Mahr Ramadan is the first spiritual month, okay, according to some scholars of akhlaq and spirituality. So I think to just sum it all up, I just want to share something here. what Rumi mentions, and Farzana, I'm sure you will enjoy what he says, because there's so much depth into what Rumi says in his lines of poetry. What he says is, consider this heart as a cave. I'm going to repeat this. I just want everyone to enjoy it. You know, all of you who are here, giving your time, you know, giving your energy. It's not easy to come on Instagram and join and be there. It's your time. Imagine we are borrowing your time, so we want to maximize this time, you know. So Rumi says, consider this heart as a cave, the spiritual retreat, the spiritual retreat of the friend. Subhanallah. It is a cave because this cave, subhanallah, belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I think inshallah, with the barakah of the month of Ramadan, let us try and incorporate the practical tools that my dear sister Farzana has given us. And inshallah, for those of you who would like more courses on these subject matters, on contemplation and reflecting on Imam Sadiq alayhi salam's beautiful traditions on tafakkur, perhaps we can inshallah together do a course, inshallah. But we need everyone's support, and I think it all begins with our intentions. And I think part of contemplation is my intention, you know, that I make this niyyah. Oh Allah, I want to get closer to you. I want to think about your beauty. I want to think about your attributes. I want to think about every name that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala you possess and you manifest, and just enjoy this beautiful journey of tafakkur. And then there is tadabbur, and then there is ta'aqqul. But I don't want to bother you with all these different dimensions. I just want to make it very simple so that people are able to enjoy these practical tools, inshallah.
I just want to add to what you said, the Rumi poem. So, you know, where you said in the cave, was it me and my friend? Yes. So when you said that, for me, the friend is the intuition, which is the message from Allah. Because if we see our intuition as our friend from the day we were born all the way to the day we die, inshallah, we will be guided. That's our messenger. That's the messages that we get from Allah. There's instincts, and instinct is quite different from intuition. Intuition has a level of depth. And that's exactly what I could see in some of the other courses that I'm delivering. Intuition is a very big part of growth. And there's one more thing I wanted to add. Obviously, you spoke about the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ in the cave, contemplating, spending time. I think, well, and then after that was a level of change. He would come out and create that change. We're also told that in any relationship that we have, we need to have Allah with us within that relationship for it to come into fruition and for betterment of that relationship. So Allah has to be within anything, okay? And so that's why we have something called niyyah. And in psychology, psychologists are saying for any change to happen, and subhanallah, we've known this for all our lives and time beyond, you know. But for any change to happen in life, there needs to be an intention. These are the words of psychologists, okay? There needs to be an intention, because intention is like a covenant with yourself. And we know an intention is a covenant with Allah here, in our terms, right? That's the beauty of it. We've engaged Allah in our intention, in our niyyah. So once we've put ourselves out there and we've said this is what we're going to do, inshallah, why wouldn't it happen? Unless there's a real reason and Allah wants to change the process of how we're doing it, then we will see something that may not happen the way we wanted it to. However, we will still achieve the best results from that intention that we started with, inshallah.
Yeah,
that's how.
And I think this is where the Holy Prophet ﷺ mentions so beautifully, and it's so profound, and it always resonates with our, you know, our intentions, where the Prophet says, "Innamal a'malu binniyat," that your actions depend on the quality and the understanding of your niyyah. You know, how much reflection has taken place before you start reading a book, you start reciting Quran, you go for your ghusl, you give charity, you are with your friends, you go out, you go to the mosque, you're doing charity work, anything that we are doing, I think it has to be qurbatan ilallahi ta'ala. And that's why we make an intention. You don't have to read it. You don't have to read it loud. It's just that thought. It's just intuitive thought that I am doing this, inshallah, seeking that proximity and that qurb of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So going back to the 3 stages, I think one of the stages that I must have forgotten was muraqabah. Muraqabah is to be watching over our soul. Okay? That is to be vigilant. So for example, from moment to moment, I need to be vigilant about my actions, about my speech, about my relationship, my interactions with people, you know, even my thoughts. It's not just the actions. Sometimes my thoughts can be very, very toxic. It could be very negative. There could be so many blockages there. I think it's so important that you begin with musharata. You go through muhasabah, and that's where Imam Sadiq alayhi salam says that every single night before you go to sleep, you must do muhasabah. You must self-account. Ya Allah, you know, think about the things that you've done. You know, how did I behave at home? How is my akhlaq with my children? How is my akhlaq online with people? You know, because we are so interwoven with people, communities online, and everything is so much online. So we have to be careful. Because one thing, my dear sisters and brothers, we need to understand that Allah is present online. You know, whether I'm the social media, whether I'm talking to someone on WhatsApp, I think it's so important to have that whole activity, and that should be part of us, which is known as muraqabah. So inshallah, there's a beautiful hadith again of Imam Sadiq alayhi salam that I want to share with you all, and I will pass it on to you because it's so important that we have such jewels. You know, we have such amazing jewels, and we need to, you know, look into these beautiful traditions. Imam Sadiq alayhi salam says, "Oh Allah, I want everyone to write this. Please journal it, you know. Oh Allah, introduce yourself to me. Oh Allah, introduce yourself to me. If you do not do this, I will not know you, and I will not be able to know your messenger. And if I do not know your messenger, I will not know your hujjah. And if I do not know our present hujjah, I will be going astray." So this ma'arifah, this understanding comes from introducing, to be introduced to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through reflections. And this can only happen if I give that space in my mind to reflect. But if it is cluttered with so much garbage, I'm sorry to use the word, there's so much of, you know, limited beliefs that we all go through, that there is no space.
And a lot of consumptions that we take in through the day, things that, you know, we don't realize. We don't have our filters on through the day whilst we're consuming things, you know, YouTube and listening in the car and, you know, so on. Sometimes we overdo it, me, myself, you know, that doesn't allow us to slow down enough, to focus enough. It takes us away from
not
focus.
at all.
Sorry.
I think it's good because it's good to have this interaction, inshallah. And I wish I could speak to all my brothers and sisters. You know, honestly, I wish I could speak to each one of you and give that attention.
There's some amazing comments, Nasim auntie, in the comments section. There's some really nice comments. So I've been reading them all. MashaAllah. Thank you so much for your comments,
so
everyone.
I think one of the things that I have, inshallah, opted, inshallah, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, for this month of Ramadan, I want to go on a digital diet, you know, as much as I can, because I work in different capacities, you know, in terms of my voluntary works. So there is a need of fundraising, especially Mahi Ramadan is big time for fundraising. But I want to allocate, you know, at least, you know, a huge portion of my time and going through, you know, offline and just being present with myself with some du'as with the book. And by the way, those of you who have not bought this book, I just received my copy today. God-Centered Spirituality, a commentary on Dua, Abu Hamza Kamali. So I just received it today, and I just want to share it with everyone. For those of you who haven't got your copy, please do get your copy. It's very soothing. It's very soothing to our hearts. The language is very simple, it's very approachable, and it just touches our hearts. So inshallah, I wish everyone a very, very blessed Maha Ramadan, and inshallah, keep us in your du'as and have those times of reflections and do all the practical things that we can, inshallah, in connecting with our beloved.
Inshallah. Ramadan Mubarak to everyone. And remember us all. We can all remember each other who's here today, inshallah, in du'as. Thank you so much, everyone. And sorry about last week, but inshallah, we've made up for it this week. And inshallah, who knows if there's time in the month of Maha Ramadan and I can convince Nasim Aunty to come back online digitally.
I think you know, we could have a suhoor night, suhoor time, you know, we could have something during suhoor, maybe take some, you know, caption from Du'a Sahar of Amir al-Mu'minin alayhi salam.
Yes,
and just reflect. And I'm sure you've all enjoyed Munajat Shabaniya. It is my go-to munajats, and whenever I feel down, whenever I feel like, you know, I can't cope with so many things that's happening, and, you know, the world, the injustices, the social injustices, you know, there's so much around, and this munajat just carries me through. And I'm sure you've all enjoyed, and carry on even in the month of Ramadan. Don't just stop it in the month of Shaban, because this is our lifeline, like all the other years, inshallah. And give reflection time when you're sleeping, when you're resting. Just think about your journey, you know, and try and see where we can fix our, you know, akhlaq, fix our souls, purification of our hearts. And one of the things that helps us in reflection is remaining in wudu. Remaining in wudu is a big bonus to our positive reflections and going towards this journey with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, inshallah.
Inshallah. Thank you all, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you so much, Sister Farzana, for your time. And it's an honor to be with you, my dear sister. It's such an honor.
Honestly, I absolutely enjoy having conversations with you. We have quite a few offline as well, don't we?
Take care, and fi amanillah, everyone. Fi aman. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Salam.
Salam.